George Kirby. Not quite the strikeout guy Luis is, but comes off a 4.5 F4 season last year, led the league in walks per 9. I mean, like the only glaring issue in this guy's game, and I don't even know if you really call it an issue, it's more about preference of George Kirby, is how many guys he's going to strike out. That's the only thing when you look at his profile that says, yeah, this has to get a lot better. That, and he could still give up a few less hard hit balls, but it's really those two things. Otherwise, you're talking about a guy who has already cemented himself as a top 12 to 15 pitcher in this sport.
There's no arm that has the upside that George Kirby does in baseball. Really? Could you name another one? I don't think there is.
Well, again, if his strikeouts go up, when you pair that with the walk rate and his unbelievable strike throwing ability, you pair those two things and it becomes what? DeGrom? Like seriously, if he starts striking out more guys paired with that command, who else does that in baseball?
Nobody. Nobody at all.
No, nobody.
Nope.
This is a guy that can...
And you said top 10 to 12 starting pitcher. Do you want to go over to the fine folks at MLB Network and fill them in on that fact? Because I don't think they quite got it. You know what they ranked him, Lau?
Way too low.
20th among starting pitchers.
Yeah.
You want to hear some guys they ranked in front of him? Pablo Lopez, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who has not thrown a single pitch in a big league uniform. That counts. Tyler Glasnow, who has hardly pitched the last few years. And Kyle Bradish. Better than George Kirby? No. Give me George every day of the week.
Dude, Kyle Bradish has, feasted off good luck, especially last year. I'm pretty sure all his peripherals screamed like you got super lucky. Yeah, I'm taking George Kirby over all those guys. Maybe we're biased because we're Mariners fans, but when you look at the profile of George Kirby, I don't think any compare to the others.
I mean, you're talking about 7 pitches, a guy who doesn't walk guys, and he throws 100 miles an hour. Yeah, that checks out. And the other thing the Mariners love about George Kirby, and the thing I love about George Kirby, he is the best big game pitcher they have. He has some clunkers, for sure. He had some clunkers against some bad teams last year. I remember the Pirates start where he gave up the Pirates had 7 bombs. I don't know. Did he give up all 7 of those? Regardless, he got blown up in that start. The Pirates hit quite a few over the wall. But when we're looking at the 10 starts Kirby had against the Astros and the Rangers, he had a 1.14 ERA last year against the Astros and a 1.26 ERA against the Rangers. That's a dog. That is a dog on the mound. Oh, and against the American League leading Baltimore Orioles, only probably the best start the Mariners had all of last season. The 9 shutout innings on Felix's retirement night. One of the best pitch games outside of Felix's perfect game that I've ever watched on television. Truly incredible. The question I have for George Kirby is, you mentioned at the start, is he actually going to, I'm curious, does George want to strike out batters, or is he going for efficiency, soft contact on the ground with his multitude of pitches, keeping guys off the plate and off the barrel? Is that what he wants? I feel like the way George Kirby pitches, he could legitimately do whatever he wants. I'm dead serious. This dude picked up a 2-seamer last year just for the shits and gigs, and it's the best 2-seamer in baseball. So I have a feeling if George Kirby really, really wanted a devastating strikeout pitch, I feel like he could dig one up. But that might not be who he is, because he's like, hey, listen, I want to get through 7-8 innings on regularity. If you strike out too many guys, your pitch count's going to go up and you're going to get taken out of the game too early. It's interesting. Is something going to pop up this year for George Kirby to strike more guys out?
It's kind of interesting. It's like the Ichiro thing, and how they always talked about, well, if he wanted to hit for power, he could have hit for power, but he doesn't feel like he would have been the productive hitter that he quite needed to be if he had sold out for power. He preferred to hit for average. And you could be right about George Kirby. That could be his philosophy too. He could say, look, strikeouts are fun, but it's not fun getting yanked out too early in games because my pitch count gets too high. So he says, let's be a little more economical. Let's get some ground balls. I'll pitch that way. Have a variety of pitches that all work, even if they're not high strikeout pitches, because his Ks per 9 are never that high. At least not yet, they're not. So what does he do in 2024? He could really go either way. But for how he's fared in his first 2 seasons, he may just prefer to pitch more economically and say, yeah, like I'll pitch to ground balls instead. Look at how good I've been regardless of it. So again, I would say the only things with Kirby are which side of the coin he picks, and either are fine, or either are more than fine. They're good. The one thing is he could give up a few less hard hit balls. Like that's the one area of his profile that could still use a little bit of fine tuning. He did give up some hard hit balls at times last year. It's to your point about how he would sometimes have some clunkers. But if he can shore that up a little bit, you're talking about like this guy's ceiling, I legitimately believe is the best pitcher in baseball. If he strikes guys out at a high enough rate, that's his ceiling. He can win multiple Cy Youngs with the command he has, with the pitch repertoire he has, everything. It's just a matter of, is this in year 3, the year he goes from being what I would already call a great pitcher? I wouldn't just call him good. I'd call him great, to being like a top 2 to 3 pitcher in baseball.
I'm also wondering if George is going to increase his splitter usage this year. He threw it about 6% of the time last year, but we could tell the immense difference between the guy we're going to talk about next and George Kirby's splitter usage. Like night and day, Logan Gilbert's splitter usage turned into a strikeout pitch, flat out. George Kirby didn't really. And none of George's secondary pitches are that outlier strikeout pitch that you can get where you're like, I'm going to get a strikeout 40% of the time with this pitch. He doesn't really have that. Not his curveball, not his slider. Those aren't strikeout pitches. Not the way he's thrown them last season. So interested to see for George. I feel like he will do what he chooses because he is that good.